Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me share a quote with you. The great Les Brown once said, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame." If you felt stuck in your fitness, mindset, or life as a whole, head down to the link in the show notes and reach out to learn more about Project Endure coaching so that we can help you step outside of the frame and bridge the gap between who you are now and who you want to be. We can't wait to hear from you. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast. Today, we have a bonus episode. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and I am solo today. This episode is a special one. It will come at the beginning of 2024. And before I get into it, I just want to say that this past year has been full of explosive growth for Project Endure. We've coached hundreds of clients, touched thousands of people, and reached tens of thousands through this podcast. If you told me 2.5 years ago that I'd be sitting here recording this podcast, I wouldn't have believed you. It all feels surreal at times, and I share this for two reasons. First, I want to express the deepest level of gratitude that I can grasp at. The support that we've received has been encouraging, overwhelming at times, and always so appreciated. We wouldn't be who we are without you. If you're listening to this, I consider you a supporter of what we're building, and having your attention means the world. This coming year is going to be a big one for the business and for anyone who wants to come along for the ride. Second, I share that things are going well to give context and contrast to some of the struggles that I've been facing behind the scenes as a business owner. I want you to know that building something meaningful is beautiful and also full of messiness, struggles, and chaos. Everything that I share after this intro is me talking to me. So if anything resonates with you, we share that in common. And you're not alone. The intention of this episode is to add as much value as possible to anyone who listens as we enter 2024. This is one of those episodes where a pen and paper are not recommended, but instead required. I'm confident that the coming minutes will be packed with wisdom that can be applicable to anyone in any season of life. Consider this a software update as we head into the new year. I've taken some time to think through the points that I'll be sharing, and they're all things that I've needed to hear in the process of entrepreneurship, general growth, and personal challenge. The following lessons from 2023 come in no particular order. Let's get into it. Hard work works, and the work is the reward. It's not about the outcome. It's about who you become in the process. And winning isn't about getting something. It's about becoming someone. The hard work will speak when the time is right. And as Damian Lillard once said, if you want to look good in front of thousands, you have to outwork thousands in front of nobody. Commitment can't exist without doubt. If it was a sure thing, there would be no need for commitment. If you're experiencing doubt, know that this is a chance to keep your word as you step into the unknown. And that's what life is, a series of steps into the unknown. Let your word be an anchor in a world full of things that waver. Stand firm. As Vince Lombardi once put it, The relationship between commitment and doubt is by no means an antagonistic one. Commitment is healthiest when it is not without doubt, but in spite of doubt. Embrace emotions. Act on principle. It's important to feel the spectrum of emotions that come with the human experience. At the same time, you won't get to where you want to go without doing things that you don't feel like doing. Discipline, like commitment, is imperative to a meaningful existence. Discipline is self-love because it involves choosing what you want most over what you want now. So feel what you need to feel and then do what you need to do. This paragraph from Hal Elrod sums it up well. He said, "Those who only do what they feel like don't do much. To be successful at anything, you must take action even when you don't feel like it, knowing it is the action itself that will produce the motivation you need to follow through. When you value your integrity at the highest level, living in alignment with your word and following through with your commitments, no matter what, there are no limits to what you can achieve for your life. However, when you make excuses, justify doing what's easiest, and choosing the path of least resistance, you will live a life of mediocrity, frustration, and regret. Live with integrity as if your life depended on it, because it does. Those who dance are considered insane by those who can't hear the music. People might not understand your vision or hear the music you're dancing to, and that's okay. It's better to be alone than be surrounded with the wrong people. What's crazy now will become cool in due time. So stick to your plan and do what makes you come alive. Be authentic and you'll attract the right people. As it's been said, if you look at the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, then you don't have a circle. You have a cage. Doing hard things isn't always what you think it is. Coming from someone who has the phrase "do hard things" tattooed across his collarbone, take this and feel the weight of it, because this phrase has evolved for me over time and even over the past few months. I think first it's important to recognize that hard is relative. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't going further, pushing harder, or chasing something bigger. Sometimes the hardest thing is recognizing that you've gone too far, slowing down and letting go of who you were to become who you're meant to be. As Steve Magnus puts it, real toughness is experiencing discomfort or distress, leaning in, paying attention, and creating space to take thoughtful action. It's maintaining a clear head to be able to make the appropriate decision. Toughness is navigating discomfort to make the best decision you can. Keep in mind that doing the right thing is often the hardest thing. Leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of people, loving them well, and lifting them up. And lifting others up is part of what makes a great leader, in addition to believing in those around us, because believing in others goes a long way. As Johann von Goethe once said, if you treat an individual as he is, he will remain how he is. But if you treat him as if he were what he ought to be and could be, he will become what he ought to be and could be. Balance isn't something that you find and maintain. It's fluid and elusive. Instead of finding balance, realize that life is about managing seasons of imbalance. Life is a dance between extremes. It's fluid, ever-changing, and dependent on the music. The goal isn't to plant a flag and stand still. The purpose is to create something beautiful with our imperfect steps. Like Mark Twain once said, what is joy without sorrow? What is success without failure? What is a win without a loss? What is health without illness? You have to experience each if you are to appreciate the other. There is always going to be suffering. It's how you look at your suffering, how you deal with it, that will define you. Life is about and, not or. Different things can coexist. For example, you can feel excited and sad at the same time. And what if life isn't about finding happiness, but instead experiencing it all, the high, the lows, the twists, the turns, the ebbs, and the flows? Life is about contrast. You can't be strong if you've never felt weak. And this beautiful quote from Albert Camus sums it up well. He said, "In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. The struggle is beautiful, and the contrast allows us to choose what we want to become." Resilience doesn't mean never breaking. Sometimes it means breaking, picking up the pieces, and having the courage to build again. Let me add this. When it comes to building anything, business or otherwise, the simple act of building invites the risk of collapse. There is no action without risk. There is no success without the chance of failure. There is no meaning without the possibility of loss. Life is so fragile, and that's what makes it precious. We have to be willing to endure the slow walk toward a better life while embracing the ups, downs, ebbs, flows, twists, and turns. And as it's been said, the lotus is the most beautiful flower, whose petals open one by one, but it will only grow in the mud. In order to grow and gain wisdom, first, you have to have the mud, the obstacles of life and its suffering. The mud speaks of the common ground that humans share, no matter what our stations in life. Whether we have it all or we have nothing, we are all faced with the same obstacles: sadness, loss, illness, dying, and death. If we are to strive as human beings to gain more wisdom, more kindness, and more compassion, we must have the intention to grow as the lotus and open each petal one by one. You never know what someone else is going through. Kindness doesn't cost anything, and a simple smile can change a life. Sometimes we need to be vulnerable first in order to make someone else feel safe enough to do the same. We're all going through something, and there's no shame in asking for help. In fact, admitting that we need assistance might be the strongest thing that we can do. Like Connor Franta once said, "Let your smile change the world, but don't let the world change your smile." Go be the reason that someone smiles. Being strong sometimes looks like surrendering, letting go of what we once were in order to become who we need to be, letting go of what no longer serves us in order to create space for what aligns, letting go of what we can't control to open up the bandwidth to control what we can. Sometimes being strong can feel like being soft. Just remember that we can do hard things without hardening. We all have hard days, and while showing up isn't everything, it counts for a lot. Like John Welborn once said, training and life are a lot like moving a big pile of dirt. Some days you have a shovel, and some days you have a spoon, But as long as you're moving dirt, that's all that matters. Showing up creates space for things to happen. Luck is real, but in order to experience luck, we need to be present. No one has ever stumbled across great opportunities while standing still. Be intentional with the areas of life that you want to make progress in, and then decide to show up. Start small and embrace the truth that consistent, incremental progress compounds over time. Or, in other words, little by little, little becomes a lot. What we want is on the other side of hard. The best version of who we can be is on the other side of discomfort. When you're pursuing potential, understand that it'll be painful and that the pain is a privilege because there are so many people who will never and can never experience it. When things get hard, remember that this is what you asked for. Remember that hard looks different for us all and that there is no strength without struggle. Like Alexis Carrel once said, man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor. Be a good friend in everything you do. I hope that what makes me a good coach is, in fact, the same thing that makes me a good friend. You need to be there for those around you with care and compassion before you can serve them with skills. However, we need to be selectively selfish in order to be sustainably selfless, and that's a lesson that I'm still learning. Saying no to one thing is saying yes to all other possibilities. And saying yes to one thing is saying no to all other opportunities. Like Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, that is to have succeeded. And also remember that every stranger is just a friend that you haven't met yet. And we're all just one person away from a completely different life. So go hold that door, send that text, offer that support, or ask for help. You never know where it'll go. Every choice, both big and small, changes the person we're becoming. As Bob Goff once said, we're all still rough drafts of the person we're becoming. Our choices are the only thing that we are in complete control over. Our choices are our power. As Lao Tzu once said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you're heading. The other thing to be aware of is that as you make decisions, not choosing or not changing is still a choice. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. Big doors swing on small hinges. Sometimes good enough is good enough, and other times the details matter a lot. The point is, don't overlook the importance of small decisions. As it's been said, big things are built one brick at a time. Victories are achieved one choice at a time. A life well lived is chosen one day at a time. Don't be a lazy, ambitious person. If you say that you want something, go and take actions that match those words. Big dreams without subsequent action are just dreams. As Les Brown once said, the graveyard is the richest place on earth, because it is here that you will find all the hopes and dreams that were never fulfilled, the books that were never written, the songs that were never sung, the inventions that were never shared, the cures that were never discovered, all because someone was too afraid to take the first step, keep with the problem, or determined to carry out their dream. Go after what you want because you only get to do this once. You will never have more time than you do right now in this moment. So if not now, when? It's important to believe in what you can become, but you can't pretend forever. As it's been said, a man can pretend to be a lot of things in this world, but he can only pretend to be a sailor for as long as it takes to clear the harbor mouth. Someone out there also needs to hear these words from Herman Melville, who said, "Man thinks that by mouthing hard words, he understands hard things. Talk less and be more. Go do hard things. Under promise, over deliver." I love this phrase. And it's something that I've been striving toward and leaning into more and more each week throughout this year and for the years to come. Be selective with what you say yes to, so that when you say yes, you can over deliver. Remember that if your actions don't live up to your words, you have nothing to say. At baseline, you are enough. It might be a hard concept to grasp, but it's true. You have value just as you are, and accomplishment won't make you anything more. You are also not your mistakes. You make mistakes, but they don't make you. You are enough, and you are so loved just as you are. It's important to realize this because we are the one person that we can't escape. These words from Neil Gaiman encourage action despite mistakes. He said, "I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes, because if you're making mistakes, then you are making new things, trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing the world. You're doing things you've never done before. And more importantly, you're doing something." I would also add, you're becoming someone. Endurance without direction is exhaustion. Endurance with direction is resilience. Like James Watkins once said, "A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence." So be persistent in a similar direction over a long period of time. And remember that being patient doesn't mean being passive. Invest in the process without becoming attached to the outcome. At its core, endurance requires patience, and finding happiness as we go is so important. As cliche as it is, it's all about the process, not about the product. Expectations are dangerous. When we set expectations, we then need that threshold to be met in order to experience happiness. Don't set expectations for things that you can't control. Instead, set standards for how you operate and let others rise to those standards. Like it's been said, you get what you tolerate. So refuse to tolerate anything less than your worth. When it comes to expecting anything out of life, I think we all need to recognize that things often won't go as we plan them. Like Catherine May puts it, we are in the habit of imagining our lives to be linear, a long march from birth to death in which we mass our powers only to surrender them again, all the while slowly using our youthful beauty. This is a brutal untruth. Life meanders like a path through the woods. We have seasons when we flourish and seasons when the leaves fall from us, revealing our bare bones. Given time, they grow again. Speaking of danger, it's not what you think it is. The longer you wait to confront fear, the harder it becomes and the more life it steals from you. There's no outrunning the things that scare us. And if you're not convinced, take it from Orison Martyr, who said, "Obstacles are like wild animals. They are cowards, but they will bluff you if they can. If they see you are afraid of them, they are liable to spring upon you. But if you look them squarely in the eye, they will slink out of sight. Energy and attitude are contagious. Be careful with what you're surrounded with and what you're consuming. What's down in the well comes up in the bucket. We need to protect inputs so that we can craft the outputs. Our environments influence us, and it's up to us to choose our environments in accordance with who we want to become. As Plato once said, we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Surround yourself with people who aren't afraid to walk through the dark in order to find the light. Find a tribe that wants to know the truth and chooses to do the right things. Bring the energy that you want more of in your life. Great things take time, and life is a long game. Ready is a decision, not a feeling. And once you choose to get started, you need to be willing to endure the roller coaster that follows, the ebbs and flows of life. There will be down days, but it's in those lows that showing up carries even more weight. Just like it's sound advice to buy the dip in the stock market, it's important to invest into ourselves when we're at the low points. That's how you get the biggest returns. So make adjustments, not excuses. Collect good people along the way. And that's what Project Endure is all about at our core. A bunch of good people who see value in doing hard things to grow further together. Remember again that every stranger is just a friend that you haven't met yet. And like Steve Jobs once said, overnight success stories take a long time. Talk less, listen more. Time is one of our most valuable assets. Respect someone's time through being direct in communication. Say what you need to say and understand that how someone else responds is a reflection of their internal state. Like Zig Ziglar once said, life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. Perspective is powerful. Change your mind, change your life. People won't always understand you based on their perspective. The need to be understood is one of the most crippling things in the world. So play your game. Run your race. Be the person only you can be, because being authentic is where your power is. Also, don't forget to be here now. It can be easy to get lost in looking forward to the big, exciting things that lie ahead. Remember the words of Robert Brault, who said, "Enjoy the little things, for one day you may look back and realize they were the big things." Extremes can be dangerous. The same qualities that help us excel can be the same ones that break us down when left unchecked. In other words, the extremes can be a dangerous place. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Instead of being someone who lives at extremes, be someone who goes all in on what matters most. That's how I've been reframing this for me. Unmade decisions are burdens. When consequences are low, take action fast. When consequences are high, take action slow. Sometimes slow is better because, as it's been said, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Have the courage to make decisions and see them through. The great Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Whatever course you decide upon, there is always someone to tell you that you are wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. To map out a course of action and follow it to an end requires courage." Life is so much bigger than us. We are each small, but not insignificant. Our decisions send out ripples that impact more than we'll ever know. And for that reason, we are important. As it's been said, there are no small roles, just small actors. Problems are a privilege. The rich man has many problems. The sick man has just one. Having the bandwidth to consider many problems is a privilege. Here are some words from Arnold Schwarzenegger to drive it home. He said, "The pain that you hold is yours. There is not a single pain quite like it. Nobody else on God's green earth can feel this pain or have the indescribable feeling of pride you will have when you overcome it. This pain is not your curse. This pain is your privilege." We become the stories that we tell ourselves, and our words hold power. We are each holding the pen, and that gives us power. Like Bob Goff said, we're all rough drafts of the person that we're becoming. And as I would argue, who you're becoming is more important than who you are. So be intentional with the words you write. Understand that there's a big difference between the phrases "I can't" and "I won't." Be careful where you place periods and where you place commas. There's a lot of power in the word yet. You might not be where you want to be yet. It was Og Mandino who once said, "I will love the light for it shows me the way, yet I will endure the darkness because it shows me the stars." In this chapter of life, the darkness exists to illuminate the stars because the truth is, without the dark, we can't see the light. What got you here won't get you there. New seasons require new strategies. It's important to find problems and focus on solutions. Here's a phrase that I've come to love. Talking about a problem without proposing a solution is called complaining. So make mistakes, make adjustments, make an effort, and then repeat. Just don't make excuses. Just because you're weary doesn't mean you're weak. If you're pursuing potential, fatigue and failure are part of the process, not the opposite of it. Remember that you didn't come this far just to come this far. Learn to rest, not quit. You can't lose if you don't quit. We all have so much more potential than we ever tap into, and most people give up much too soon. Like William James once said, most people never run far enough on their first wind to find out that they've got a second. Give your dreams all you've got, and you'll be amazed at the energy that comes out of you. You will never have it all figured out. None of us will. Each moment is brand new, and we have no idea what's coming next. Life is about finding contentment in the midst of uncertain circumstances. It's about choosing calm within the chaos. People are so afraid that their effort will be wasted if they lack specific direction. The truth is that most of us have no idea what we're doing. We'll all be figuring it out for the rest of our lives, and hard work is never wasted if the work itself makes you better. Taking action without answers is what helps us get clear. It's the action that creates clarity. So let each step reveal the next. And if you're not sure what to do the next right thing. Like Laura Mathis puts it, some days you will feel like the ocean, and some days you will feel like you are drowning in it. That's life. Every ending is a new beginning, even if we don't know it at the time. There are no dead ends, just detours. Even when the darkness sets in, that's not the end. Like Christine Kane once said, sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. And once you're planted, growth is an active choice. It's something that we must choose over and over again. Oftentimes, growth looks like going against the grain and swimming upstream. People might not understand, and that's okay. As Aristotle once said, there is only one way to avoid criticism: do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. There is no growth without discomfort, and comfort is a slow death. The mess is where the magic happens. So stop avoiding the mess. Step into the arena. And of course, I'm going to share one of the best quotes of all time from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself on a worthy cause, who at the best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Questions are powerful. The questions we ask ourselves matter a lot. If we want a better life, we need to ask better questions. When things happen, stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "Why not me?" We need to be willing to ask the hard questions and look in the dark places, because that's where we learn the most. It's been said that the depth of a man is a limit only he can know should he have the courage to explore into the dark. You can't connect the dots looking forward. Faith means trusting that the dots will connect even when we can't make sense of it from our limited perspective. Here's a mindset shift. Instead of thinking, "What if?" think, "Even if." Instead of, "What if this goes wrong?" think, "Even if this doesn't go great, I'll figure it out." Also, remember that "what if" goes both ways. What if things work out better than you could have ever imagined? It won't happen how you think it'll happen, and it won't look like you think it will look. Remember, no dead ends, just detours. Things will happen how they're supposed to happen. And like it's been said, a person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it. This Charles Spurgeon quote hits home for me. God is too good to be unkind, and he is too wise to be mistaken. And when we cannot trace his hand, we must trust his heart. Character is something that we cultivate with each choice we make. Even the small, seemingly insignificant choices that happen behind closed doors alter the person that we're becoming, and as a result, send out ripples to everyone that we'll ever know. It sounds extreme, but it's true. Live life like it's on film. It's important to recognize that our stories are written in public and private moments. This is just a reminder that the moments behind closed doors and the sentences written in secret still matter, because life will reveal the person that we've been creating. These words from Brooke Westcott express it well. She said, "Great occasions do not make heroes or cowards. They simply unveil them to the eyes of men, silently and perceptibly. As we wake or sleep, we grow strong or weak, and last, some crisis shows what we have become." Time is precious. One of the best phrases I've ever heard is memento mori, which means remember, you must die. Remember, life is transient. It moves. Remember when things are hard that this too shall pass. The full phrase is "this shall pass" and "this too shall pass," meaning the hard times past and the good times also pass. With time, it all passes. So cherish it all as best you can because it won't last forever. For those listening who are having a hard time wrapping their heads around the idea that this hard time will pass, take these words from Mikhail Lermontov, who said, "Many a calm river begins as a turbulent waterfall, yet none hurtles and foams all the way to the sea." True wealth isn't having everything. True wealth is needing nothing. That's a simple concept to grasp between the ears, but it's another thing to put into practice. Just remember that your definition of success can look different than the world around you. And so here's another reminder. If you want to make a difference in the world, you need to be different from the world. Persistence is a powerful skill. Just because something is taking a long time doesn't mean it's not working. Like Jacob Riis once said, "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two, and I know it was not that blow that did it, but all that had gone before." Persistence is also beautiful. Like Sarah Kay once said, "There's nothing more beautiful than the way the ocean refuses to stop kissing the shoreline, no matter how many times it's sent away." Refuse to give up on what matters most. If it's worth it, keep working for it. It's important to be wrong. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. Admitting when we are wrong allows us to openly pursue what is right. In fact, being wrong is part of the process in discovering ourselves. We need strong convictions held with a loose grip. It's been said that our exploration might not take us to where we intended to go, but we must trust that it'll take us to where we need to be. Like Henry David Thoreau once said, "Not until we are lost do we begin to find ourselves." So don't be afraid to get lost. Sometimes you have to burn the boats and eliminate plan B in order to be all in on the task at hand. Pressure doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's what makes diamonds. When you commit to a path of singular focus, results are a matter of when, not if. Like Michael Gerber once said, "The difference between great people and everyone else is that great people create their lives actively while everyone else is created by their lives, passively waiting to see where life takes them next. The difference between the two is the difference between living fully and just existing." Once again, going all in on what makes you come alive invites the risk of being misunderstood, but you can't let that cripple you. Be unreasonable. Like George Bernard Shaw once said, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." Have some fun. It doesn't have to be that serious. Going back to the idea of perspective, there's no such thing as bad weather, just a bad attitude. So the next time it rains, forget the umbrella. Go jump in some puddles. Last, God is good, and I couldn't do any of this without him. It's been so amazing to watch so many people grow in faith through what we're building. And if you ever want to learn more about this part of my life, go listen to episode 1 and then reach out. I'm an open book and I would love to talk. In closing, thank you so much for listening to these words and for supporting our mission. Even if I don't know you yet, I would love to start a conversation and invite you into what we're creating with open arms. There's a place here for everyone, and we're here for whatever you need. The goal is to nurture deep relationships and lift our circle up as we all strive to grow toward our potential. I've got a great feeling about 2024, and I hope you do too. Thank you again for listening. With so much love, and until next time. If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.